Welcome to episode 143 of Beyond the Brick. I'm Joshua Hanlon.
And I'm Matthew Kay.
And this episode of Beyond the Brick is brought to you by Brickmania.com. Our featured kit this week from Brickmania is the Apocalypse Bundle. This is a really great bundle that Brickmania sells. Includes a Lego Shaun of the Dead character, a Lego zombie, and a bunch of really cool brick arms, zombie-related weapons. So some really awesome stuff in this kit. I'll have a link in the description for you to check that out. I think this is, if you're building anything apocalypse related, this is definitely the kit for you to get. So I'll put a link in the description, and you can check that out and everything else they have to offer at brickmania.com. Now, joining us on the show tonight, we're very happy to have Karyn Traphagen. She, you might know her from her website, minibricksmadness.com, where she posts a lot of stuff about Modulex and other Lego-related content as well. She has various science-related jobs she's done over the years, and she's actually going to be heading out this summer as a wilderness guide in Alaska, so some cool stuff happening there. And she's a member of the North Carolina Lego Users Group. So it's great to have you on the show, Karyn.
It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. So you want to tell us a little bit about, just to start off, your involvement in the North Carolina Lego Users Group when you first joined there and some of the shows they do?
Well, we moved down to North Carolina in 2009, and shortly after that, I became aware of the Lego Users Group through, I think, the first Brick Magic event that was in Raleigh. And so that was a great way of meeting people, and I started to kind of come and hang out and get involved in their events like the Lego Palooza, and just getting to know some of the people. Great group of people.
And so how has being a member of the group, a wonderful group, by the way, how has it contributed to your enjoyment of the hobby as a whole? Do you find that it detracts in some ways, or is it mostly just a positive benefit?
Oh, I think it's a positive benefit because I think we enable each other. Just when you think you're going to talk yourself out of buying more brick, someone says, "Oh no, go for it!" It gives you another excuse to have to build with somebody. And I think being collaborative with people is great. Working together with people, but also just hanging out together, hearing different people's ideas. And over the last couple of years, we've had some new people come who've moved internationally, and so they've even brought into some of our conversations things from groups in Europe, and we just talk different techniques. You really learn a lot by being around other people. So yeah, it's great.
Always nice to have new blood spicing it up, right?
It is always nice to have new people come, yes.
Definitely.
That's very cool. So before you kind of joined the lug there, did you build with Lego as a kid, or was this something you got into as an adult?
I know that I must have built with Lego as a child because we have brick, and it was just I think just a natural part of growing up. But really, when we got married and had our own kids, I have kids. They have Lego, and we just started to think about what kinds of things do you want to invest in that last. And we have brick from our family from now generations. It just keeps adding into it, and it's just something that everybody enjoys, both the older people, the younger people, the little kids. Everyone kind of jumps in, so it's just a great opportunity that doesn't really diminish over time. I don't think you need to outgrow it. It can grow and change with you, which I think is great.
It can mean different things over time. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like now we're obsessive with it.
You just get more and more obsessive as time goes on.
Yes. I think we're all probably speaking right now, sitting probably in rooms more full of Lego than we ever had, ever imagined we would.
Yes.
That is definitely true, I think. So, yeah, it just kind of gets more and more building, more and more obsessive, like you said. But I guess that's a good thing.
Well, I don't expect everybody to accumulate or have the time to put into it that we do. But what I like about the club and my opportunities now is we get to go into community events and show how Lego can be more than just buying a set and putting that together, and showing them other ways that they can use it. And then we have people in our group who work with robotics in schools, and so there's just a lot that people aren't aware of. And so by being able to be part of the community, the users groups can go out into the general community and really inspire people to do things that they hadn't thought about before.
Certainly.
Mm-hmm. I think that's definitely true. So yeah, that's really awesome that you've been so involved like that. Now, one of the main focuses of this episode is something that is really interesting that you do in the community, and that is your involvement with Modulex. And you've done conventions that you go to. You have a big booth where you show off a lot of different types of Modulex bricks and some of the MOCs you've built with them. So if you just want to start off by, I'm sure a lot of people out there aren't real familiar with these and what they are, so if you just want to tell people what Modulex is and kind of how it differs from normal Lego bricks that they might be familiar with.
Sure. So in 1963, the Lego brick that we all know and love was out in the retail area for people to build with, but it was something that people wanted to use to create maybe a house to show an architect what they might like to have. This actually the longer story. Sorry?
Was it the bill in the airport? What precipitated? I don't know if I'm jumping ahead here.
No, you're not jumping ahead. I was trying to simplify. I'll expand.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So actually, there's more detailed story on my website. There's links to longer versions of the story. But yes, members of the Lego Group family had wanted to actually build a house to demonstrate, as I was saying, what it might look like for an architect. They wanted to redesign. I've also heard that when one of the Lego buildings had burned down, that they wanted to kind of show out of Lego bricks how it might be rebuilt. This is all, story and myth. Some is true, some is not. Some has a grain of truth in it. But the bottom line is that it was very difficult because of the scale, and because a regular brick has a 5-to-6 ratio, and so at that point in time we didn't have the plates that were 1/3 height, so you couldn't vary the heights. You couldn't get a really good standardized model. So what do you do if you own your own company that creates these things? Is you figure out, well, you know what, I betcha we could design a brick that actually was compatible with the building standard and make this for architects. And so that's what they did. And the Lego Modulex system was originally never intended for retail. It was always a professional tool. It started out being a professional tool for architects. And the bricks themselves are smaller. They're not quite about half the size of a regular brick, but the really important part is that they are 1 by 1 by 1. Each brick, a 1 by 1 brick, is a cube with a stud on top. And so this is able to align with an international building standard, and that was what the critical key was. And so as part of that, they developed bricks, regular bricks that you and I would be familiar with, tiles, which were the height of a brick but no studs on top, and then some slopes and things to put roof ridges together. And those were and windows and doors. Those were the original elements. Over time, the company changed how the bricks were used. Originally, they were intended to be just for three-dimensional architectural models. That didn't go over so well. It's expensive, and it didn't have as quite the response. But ever evolving, they moved to being more of just a flat, still three-dimensional, but more like a floor plan for warehouses and for factories, and showing how different equipment could flow together, showing workflow within buildings. You did see the Billund Airport. That is one that was done, but a lot of them don't have a roof over it. They're just open, so you can see where things would go. Well, the next evolution was then to take those the base plate, and move it up onto the wall and use it for a planning board to show a flow chart of work. So it was a planning board system then. And then you would put down the side bricks that had people's names or the names of projects, and then there were bricks for dates, months and days. There was all kinds of little special elements that allowed you to slide bricks along to show where the project was progressing.
Wow.
And then they made boards that allowed you to slide them off the board, off the wall. They had a thin metal backing to them, and put them on a Xerox machine and photocopy them so that you could share the plan with somebody else. So that's a lot of how the progress went. Then in the 80s, they really focused more on the signage. In order for those boards that were on the wall, they did a lot of tiles that had letters and numbers in various sizes, and that was very successful. So then they went to making door plates and signage things that worked, and they did more of that and pretty much stopped making most of the bricks. They made the tiles, they made the letters, they made all those. And now the company is still in existence. They don't do any of the bricks at all. They don't do any of the tiles at all. But they're an international company that does signage for galleries and museums, things like that. So they evolved over the years, starting with the brick, moving it into the business model that they have now.
Wow.
Yeah, that's quite the incredible history there. That's interesting.
So,
I didn't realize all that.
One of the things that I do, like when I'm at some of the brick events, is I talk to people, because they'll come and they'll see the display and they say, "Is that real Lego?" or "What is that?" And then they say, "Oh, I know what that is," and they don't. But I have these little things I show. So I'm going to show you these. I don't know if you can see. They're two little jars.
Okay. Chip in a bottle kind of jars. Yeah.
Okay, so this one is filled with standard 1x1 bricks of your standard system, and this is 1x1s of Modulex. Now, how many do you think are in this one?
It looks to be about 15.
20 is my guess.
Okay, and how many do you think are in here?
A lot.
40, 50?
Okay, well, there's 19 in here.
Okay.
Okay, and there's 110 in here.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So it's a big difference, and to look at it a different way, this is 100 bricks of your standard, and this is 100 of Modulex.
Wow.
So it's quite a bit, quite a bit smaller. And the other big difference is the color palette. The color palette is much more muted. It was never intended to be like a toy play thing, so that you don't have the really bright primary colors. It's a much more muted tone, especially the early years. In the later years, when it was on the wall with the tracking projects and things, they came out with some more colors, some brighter pinks and teal and the tangerine kind of color. And in fact, that's the kind of thing that a lot of people who collect 2x4s of any kind of Lego brick, they're interested in trying to collect the history of the bricks as they were released, because the very first bricks that were released had on the stud Lego. Now think about this. You're an architectural firm putting together a professional presentation for a multi-million-dollar project. Do you want to present your model
Use
with a toy? Okay, so they switched to having an M on the stud for Modulex to differentiate the professional brick from the toy brick.
A necessary consideration, yes.
Well, some would say,
Oh, well, I guess it's kind of like, that's not cool, man. But
Yeah, well,
I
and
know what they're doing.
it can cause some confusion for some people.
Yeah.
But there are ways, like in this display board back here, I don't know if you can see that this side is all the Lego this is the Modulex ones. They're all, I mean, they're all Modulex, but I mean, this has Lego on the studs, this has M on the studs. So, you know, you can collect and find all of the ones, and that helps us to date them too.
Interesting. So now when you mentioned that it starts off as an architectural tool and it kind of morphs into this like sign system, throughout the whole duration of that time frame, it's all the same size brick, right? There were no big design changes in that regard.
Well, no, the standard size, the size of it is the same.
Okay.
The type of brick was different. So in the very beginning, we had the windows and the doors, we had roof slopes, we had roof ridges. Those very quickly were phased out. Those were the very earliest in the 60s. And then later, when they moved to the other they put more tiles and bigger tiles. So you'll see 2x6 and 2x8 tiles, and then even some even larger and different colors. But the scale and the size was the same.
Interesting.
Now, so you mentioned that they kind of morphed into making the signage over the years. How many years were they making the bricks before they kind of have they totally stopped now making the bricks?
Oh, the bricks were stopped. A lot of the bricks were stopped being made early in the 70s, the oldest ones. In the 80s, they were still making the bricks that were for the wall systems, and those are the later bricks, and they were still making some of those. But certainly into the late 80s was when as far as I know, they were not really making any. They were still selling some of these because there was inventory that was stocked up that could be had by people who wanted them, and there were printed tiles and the letters and all of those kinds of things were definitely still being made and being sold, but not the bricks. However, as you may have known or heard,
I believe that. Are we leading into the next topic of discussion?
Well, we could talk more about whatever you want to hear.
Well, more about whatever you want to hear. Yeah. What was that you were saying, Josh?
Yeah, so I was just I was wondering about the kind of quality and what the bricks are made of. Is it the same plastic materials that a normal Lego brick is made of, or did they use different materials for it?
So the bricks are made of ABS, which is the same as regular Lego brick. They did experiment with another plastic, PPO, which I think that they probably also experimented with for their other bricks. In Europe, they did. You can find a couple of samples and examples of using some of these other types of plastics, but in general, the overall brick that you would have purchased was from ABS.
Okay, so these weren't completely foreign then. They, the same materials and everything, just kind of different shapes.
Right. I mean, it's the same material and the same kind of attention to detail as far as clutch and as far as the Lego values and as far as quality. The manufacturing would have been very similar. It was and everything is compatible in the same way within the Modulex system. So Modulex and standard system don't fit together. Well, we can cheat. There's ways to get them, but they weren't meant to go together.
It's just like happenstance, right?
Well, it's just, let's say, creative use.
Illuminati. Yeah. So now, Modulex bricks are so small compared to a Lego brick, or not so small, but a fraction smaller. Are there any design considerations that you have kind of noticed because the bricks are in fact so small? Like the way the structure of the plastic itself, like the way the molds are designed. Is there anything that kind of pops out to you, or do you find them to be relatively analogous or whatever to an actual Lego brick?
I've used them so much now that I don't find a problem with them, and I don't think they're hard to work with. And the plastic is very, very similar to what we would be familiar with. You have to remember that some of these bricks are 50 years old.
So that's maybe what you're experiencing if you're kind of like feeling brittleness or.
Well, I think not so much brittleness as much as I think some of the, in particular, the clear bricks lose their clutch power, whereas most of the others are okay. The other thing is, just like any brick, they can discolor depending on how they're exposed to light and how they're stored. So I think that but they behave the same as any other brick. And all the building challenges are that we don't have all the same kind of special elements. So we have, as I said, 1 by 1, 1 by 2, 1 by 3, 1 by 4, 1 by 5, and then 2 by 2, 2 by 3, 2 by 4, 2 by 5 bricks. And then we have a lot of those same sizes as tiles, which are full height bricks. Mm-hmm. But you can't get the variation between like a half brick or a third of a brick. So some of the things that we're really used to being able to do to get that fine detail is not able to be done. There are some plates that are 1 by 10, and when when Modulex was made, it was made to be cut and glued.
You just a gasp from everyone just went out there.
Yeah, with that, thank you for the interview.
This is official Lego Modulex glue.
The Kraggle.
The real Kraggle.
So are we trying to say that Lego itself has made Kraggle at some point in history?
But anyway, so the point being that you could, if you cut those long 1 by 10s down, you could get some other kind of shapes, but you have to be really creative to get any snot building.
Understandably so. There are no Travis brick elements, are there?
There aren't, but there are some elements that we don't have in standard bricks, and they're really cool. I'm gonna I'll pull one off. So they're called profile bricks. This is really hard for you to see, but it's basically a 1 by 6 brick with a stud on the top, and it's a complete open slot channel on the back, and it's open on the bottom. So it allows you to do some really unique things with it. And then there's some other profile bricks that have studs on the top, and they're open on the side. So those are things that allow that, and the roof ridges. Roof ridges are at 45 degrees, and then a couple of other different angles, and they receive the studs in the bottom on both sides. So it's a solid piece that goes over the ridge, and then the bricks fit into it.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is really neat. So there's some different bricks, even though there might not be as many with Modulex. There are some that you don't have in normal bricks.
Right, and we have a swivel brick that's really cool. It's a 2 by 4, very thin plate that has a round swivel under it, and you just pop it onto anything, and then you can rotate it at any angle and build on top of that. So that provides a lot of fun opportunities too.
That is really interesting. Mm-hmm. So I guess other than the bricks themselves, they never really looked back at System and said, oh, what is System doing? I guess we should. And at this time, System itself wasn't that evolved, right?
In a way, Modulex was more evolved.
More evolved, yeah.
Because of the special elements that they had at that point. So they may have. I don't know that they influenced each other, because you have to remember they were really very focused on different users.
Totally.
So were these completely separate as far as people who designed the bricks? Would these have been normal Lego designers, or did they pretty much bring in and train kind of a whole new team for the Modulex line?
Well, the Modulex company had its own separate facility. So okay. I think they had their own people. And I've been really fortunate because I've had some email exchanges with people who worked there decades ago. And so I was able to get some institutional memory from them about some things and questions that we just had kind of inferences about or questions and didn't really know. For example, the big plates that Modulex made, they have no markings on the stud. and we asked, like, how come there's no marking on the base plates? And they said, well, because Modulex is so small and it was a vacuum process, it couldn't hold the detail for the lettering on the stud. So that's the kind of thing we would not have known if we hadn't been able to talk to some of these people.
And so when you say it's like a vacuum mold, so it's like they were heating up a sheet and then like it's not being injection molded, the base plates?
Well, the base plates are, real thin.
Uh-huh. Oh,
They're
that's
not,
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's more like I think it's a different process. I have seen the other ones, but I haven't seen those actually come through the process. But yes, different than the brick molds, definitely.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So that's really neat stuff. I'd be interested to hear some of your kind of personal history in Modulex. How did you first get interested in this? Because it is a little more obscure part of Lego history.
It's a niche hobby, a niche of a niche.
Well, I was at a brick convention, and I saw that somebody had a few of these kind of sitting on the side, and I love tiny things. If anybody knows me, they know I love tiny, tiny things in anything. And what could be better than tiny Lego? And I didn't realize that this was, like, they said, oh no, that's Lego Modulex. So I ran out to the vendors and I said, do you have any of this? And no one knew what I was talking about.
Wow.
And so I tracked down a bunch of stuff online and I found out more about it, and then I started to buy some for myself, and I would carry them around in a little tin with me. And sit down, you're waiting at the restaurant and nobody's doing anything, you pull it out and there's that Lego on the table and people say, what is that? And you start talking to people, and then I realized that there really was something here that I could maybe contribute to the Lego history by making this more available to people. And it sort of dovetailed, honestly, with the fact that at the very same time, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And so I was trying to figure out things that I could do that might provide really flexible entrepreneurial opportunities. And so that first summer, what I did was I just bought as much. I didn't renovate my kitchen. Instead, I spent the money on plastic. And I bought as much Modulex as I could find. And then I kind of did a test kind of time. I went to Brick Fair, Virginia, and I had put together these little boxes and sets and little kits so that people could see them and just kind of test the water. And there was a really good response. And people just were really interested. Whether or not they wanted to build with it large scale, it was more about wanting to have a little bit of it themselves. They've got tons of Lego, but they didn't have any of this Lego. And it was really interesting for them to have a little piece of history that they hadn't had. So I took that and I kind of just decided I would, just keep trying to accumulate. Now I've had really good opportunities to purchase a lot of Lego Modulex. I have people in Europe that I've been able to, keep an eye out for me, and I've just been very fortunate, honestly. I have a lot, and at some point in the first couple of years while I was doing that, another AFOL, Abner Finley, approached me and said, you ought to think about the fact that instead of breaking up these sets for other people, you ought to think about trying to accumulate an archive of things, because I had at that point really started to get a lot of complete groupings of things, and I have a lot of the original packaging, and I have a lot of original manuals. So then I started focusing on that too, and I have inventory sheets, so I've been trying to go through and recreate the boxes as they would have been in the inventory sheets, and make sure that I have enough of everything in an archive, and then from the excess, or from the more discolored or lesser quality ones, put together sets and kits or build with myself and do it that way. So now I see it two ways. Now I see that well, actually three. I love to build with it, so I have a lot of MOCs, and I try to encourage people to build with what they have to build MOCs. And there's some really great stuff on Flickr. And then I do the historic archive. I have this gigantic oak cupboard that anybody who's been to our North Carolina lug events or some of the Brick Fair things have seen that huge antique oak
or helped
case.
Carry it for
or helped carry it. And in that is a lot. I try to fill that with a lot of the history stuff, and those things I'm not selling. Those are just things to accumulate and hopefully preserve the story. And then I put together little mini kits, either sets of all the different varieties of bricks, or I've got little kits like a pumpkin or a penguin or different things like that, and people can buy those too. So it's really three things. I want to build, I want to preserve the history, and then I want to give people an opportunity to own some of it for themselves.
So this is the one question, and I don't even know if I've ever asked you this, but this just pops out at me sometimes, just because I sometimes have these thoughts. It's like, you're in the grocery store, and you're buying chocolate chips, and like, you want to buy, you make sure you have enough for yourself. Yeah. So when you're selling and evangelizing Modulex, you ever worry that you're going to create another you, and then you're going to have to compete with you again because they're not making any more of it, right? So conceivably a limited supply, all that kind of...
Well, it is a limited supply. And, well, I can't give all my secrets away.
Okay, there we go. That's all I wanted to hear, Karyn.
That does kind of lead into, I was wondering if other people out there were interested, say they heard you talking about this and they sounded like something that might be cool to try to get some bricks. Is this something you have to search and do hours and hours of research to find, to buy some? Or if someone was interested in getting some, can you go on eBay or Bricklink or something?
So honestly, timing is everything, right? And I got very, very interested in this before a lot of people knew about it, or a lot more people. Now, there are people in Europe who have some really extensive collections and who do really amazing, wonderful things, and they have a lot of bricks also. I probably have the most Modulex bricks of anybody in the United States. I'm pretty sure I can say that. And I've counted them, so... Well, I've weighed them. Counted and weighed. But I'm not really worried about it because most of the... yes, you can get it. You can buy it from me. You can buy it from other people on Bricklink. And sometimes you can get some
and
that
Bricklink does allow it to be sold on the site. I believe that was I'm not going to say a recent development, but I do remember when that was announced, right?
Well, it's been at least 5 or 6 years. So
yeah, so 5 or 6 years ago, I remember when.
Yeah. I think that so you can get it at Bricklink. The hard thing with buying something that's vintage on Bricklink is all of the images are catalog images, and so it's hard to know the quality of the particular piece that you're purchasing, whereas on eBay you might have a picture of the actual thing, and if you've done enough purchasing of them, as I have, you know which colors to look out for, the ones that might discolor, you know what you're looking for, and you know what you want. It's also harder. It's expensive, so not everybody's going to want to plunk down hundreds and hundreds of dollars at a time to get a certain lot. But you can certainly get a couple of bricks at a time. I think a good average cost is about, and this is a average across all the kinds, is about 50 cents a brick. You can get them as cheap as on Bricklink. There's probably some that are 7 to 10 cents each, and then others that are several dollars to $10 each. It just depends on which colors, the quality, the rarity. And I think that's the thing that I feel good about is I I tried to simplify the process. Instead of making each brick a particular price, I have enough of it that I'm selling that I can equalize the price. So I can do a set of 100 bricks and put in there good quality color, a variety of all the sizes, a variety of the colors, and just charge one kind of flat rate. And then if people want to email me, like I do custom stuff all the time for people. They want a particular brick, or they want a set of these particular colors, or, you know, Mr. Red wants everything red, and you just you know. So I'm really very, very happy to accommodate, and that's why I don't have an extensive Bricklink store. I just deal with people as they email me or come and talk to me, and so far that's worked out well.
I believe you're in an enviable position of authority over the Modulex universe, or something like that.
Well, I'm one of the people that has had the benefit of getting a lot of information, and that really helped this last year, as you know, the potential for a reissue came to the head. We can talk more about that if you want to.
Yes.
Yeah, this might be a good time to talk about that, actually, if you want to kind of cover some of the issues with you know, reissuing and some of the history of that.
Okay.
And I believe, just to, like, off the, you know, before saying anything, I know a lot of people, and I myself are not included in this thanks to you, but we're not aware that this was even on the table until it was announced that it wasn't happening. So I was like, what?
Okay, so this could make a really great movie sometime. It's like there's so much speculation that goes behind it. I'll tell you the facts first.
Yes. Yes.
So what happened was in 2014, I guess about in the springtime, you started to see on Facebook there was a group called Modulex Bricks AS, and that's kind of the equivalent of the American Incorporated. So yeah. Modulex Bricks Inc. sort of. And they looked like they were using the same colors and the same logo as Modulex, and they were talking about wanting to reissue the bricks. And so I emailed my contacts at Modulex and my contacts at the Lego Group, and I said, is this legit? Like, I mean, what is this? And what came back was that the Modulex company owns separately from the Lego Group, they had the rights to the Modulex bricks, and they had the last molds, not all of the molds, but the last molds. And one of the relatives in the Lego Group family bought the rights to the bricks and to using the name, and it was very confusing because Modulex AS is the original company, and they sold the rights, and Anders created Modulex Bricks AS.
Yes.
So it was very confusing because they were also very much saying we're reissuing, the Modulex brick is back, and it made it hard for people to understand that yes, it is the same molds, but no, it's not the same company. Yes, it is somebody from the Lego family, but it's not the Lego Group. What does the Lego Group think of this?
What does it mean?
If you know, and I'm not gonna. The Lego Group has several relatives. One section of the family sold off their rights to the rest of the family. This group now is not part of the Lego Group dynasty. Okay, they sold their rights back when Lego wasn't doing well. Somebody in this branch of the family is the one that bought the rights to the Modulex brick and started to, put forth these test bricks, of which I have. He sent me test bricks, and I can show you those in a minute. And they started this. They had a website which was coming soon. never got out of the coming soon state. They had a Twitter feed and a Facebook feed.
I think they followed me on Twitter, my personal Twitter
Yeah,
feed.
and they hired somebody. His name was Thomas, who did a super job of promoting it and trying to get the community excited about it. He put together little brochures that got made their way to several of the United States brick conventions and also through Europe to generate interest. The idea was that they were going to reissue these bricks. They didn't have a timeline other than saying hopefully in the first quarter of 2015. They didn't have a business model that they were revealing other than it was going to be just sold online. It was good, but it was also confusing. And then what happened was that they I don't know the order of how it happened, but in the end, the Lego legal team got involved and bought out the Modulex Bricks AS so that it became part of the back under the Lego group, the owning parent company of the Lego group.
So it
and so now,
awkward, or
well,
and how amicable do you think that that interaction was?
That is the speculation.
Okay, so that's what I'm getting at.
Let's finish with facts. So they bought it, and then they made the announcement just like very shortly ago, like within the last 10 days, and as part of the announcement said, we have evaluated the possibility of reissue, and we have no plans for that right now. Which essentially and then all of the momentum that had been building kind of died. Now, there's some people who feel like, oh, that wasn't right, mean old the Lego group, and then other people were thinking, well, maybe this guy was just really savvy and knew all along that it wasn't going to fly. And so it's really hard to know. I don't really want to speculate. I know that there's a lot of speculation out there. I want to try to think the best of people. But I did want to get involved because obviously since I'm so involved in Modulex, I had many conversations in email and had worked with Thomas in providing some Modulex history and collaborated with them on some of their content, and he in return sent me some of their test bricks, and this is actually one of the base plates that has the reissued bricks, which are now like huge collector's items.
Very limited edition now.
Very, very limited edition. So, I mean, like Thomas was great to work with. I was hoping to go out. We had talked about me coming out and meeting with them. We were working on, in December, as early, not that long ago, in December we were talking about, NDAs as they were getting closer to reissue. So, it's just really hard to know how the timeline unfolded on their end. I think they were, it's the public face is that everybody's happy with the end result. The community face is, oh, gee, now we don't get more Modulex. Although, I mean, at the Brick Fair Virginia, I did a seminar and included a lot of the new information, and I had video of their test bricks being printed, which you can see online. They have it online, and we talked about the fact that they were going to make a new mark to put in the mold so that you could differentiate the old Modulex from the new Modulex. So, there was a lot of really interesting things. And now that's all part of a really small part of the Modulex history. So you've got the Lego history, the Modulex history, and then this little reissue history, which it will be interesting over time if we are able to uncover any more of the details. But it was great. And if nothing else, the other thing that's really cool that came out of it was that in my when they bought the rights to, when the Modulex Bricks company started and bought the rights to the molds and stuff. They got all that stuff from the Modulex company, who really didn't care about it. And all of the stuff now that the Modulex Bricks company had, including all the rest of the test bricks, are now in the Lego Group's hands. So you're never going to see those again. But for that one brief shining moment when Modulex Bricks had it, they had the 1963 test bricks with colors that were spray painted onto gray test bricks.
Oh.
So these are all like original little test bricks that they sent me. So these are from 1963, from before when they, printed out all these different. This was when they were trying to choose what colors they were going to use for Modulex. So I'm so happy that I was able to get those. That's great.
Oh my gosh. And now it is sitting in a Lego vault somewhere.
It's probably melted.
Yeah, they melted it down, turned it into other Lego.
I don't know. I mean, some days I have these great thoughts like, okay, so I've amassed this huge giant collection, and it's like, well, who would really want it other than me? And I think, well, they should have it. They should put it in their vault. I mean, it's like everything that Modulex ever made.
Yeah.
But they don't. They it's like the ugly stepsister. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's the ugly stepchild of the Lego group of fans.
I don't know.
Companies.
Yes. Who knows?
So as it stands right now, then, just to I guess recap real quick some of this recent history. So Modulex right now is under the Lego Group, and there are no plans to reissue any bricks right now at the moment.
Okay, so the Lego Group is one company. Modulex is another company. They were spun off and are completely separate now. Modulex Bricks was the one that was newly started and acquired by actually the Kirky, the owning company of the Lego Group.
Christensen
Bought it out. No. It's
Kirby, the holding company.
Yes, the holding company.
Sure.
Gotcha. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that just to make sure everybody understood. So yeah, that makes sense now. So that's kind of where it stands right now with everything.
Yep.
So yeah, that is quite the interesting history there, going back quite a few years of the way that's evolved. Yeah, that's
and
really
I think
incredible.
actually maybe the next point to raise, and this would just be us. I don't think we really could add anything meaningful to this, but the fact that with the Lego architecture line, the adult market, I guess, was proven as a viable one, and we see nanoblocks exploiting this adult market as well. You often see Lego architecture sets alongside nanoblock sets in gift shops. While, logic would say that maybe Modulex would be, right in that same categorization as nanoblocks, right?
Well, I think that's what the argument from the people like us was for the reissue, is that if there was more of these, but I don't think they were looking to. They didn't have any ideas for sets. They didn't have any ideas for that kind of thing, and I just don't know how really profitable it would be compared to things like
Lego Friends,
Star Wars, Lego, like everything else. I mean, and the Lego Group is so good at research and retail, and they know their markets. And if it's not going to be a huge return, it's not going to be worth their time. And I don't think, it's a different market. So.
Yeah. Well.
But I would love to, obviously have more. I think.
it never hurts if they come out with some more parts.
Well, that was actually the only thing that I would have really liked to have seen. Is Thomas was saying that, and they showed me designs. They were looking at having some of the like headlamp type parts and multiple, so that we could have a lot more creative building going on in the Modulex size. And if they had done that, that would have been astounding. But of course, we're not there. We're not there yet. But maybe Brickmania will make us a third-party.
Yeah, well, we'll get somebody else to do it. So
Yeah, you never know. I mean,
the official Modulex reissue.
there's
Although
more
I
and
mean,
more.
like that's part of the nice thing for me is that it's really easy when people come to my like my display and stuff is I can say no, these are not remade, these are not recreated, these are the real thing. You're holding in your hand something that's up to 50 years old, and that's really really cool, and that's what makes it really special. And I think I do hope that more people are able to get bricks. This is you asked one of my up here is what the
I believe that was featured on the Brothers Brick, right?
it was. This is one of
Awesome.
my favorite MOCs that I've done with the bricks, and it's several layers. It's got blue underneath transparent brick, but I don't think you can tell. But anyway, there's one of the nice things that they did was they had tiles that had a matte finish and a gloss finish, so that you can get different textures. And so when you actually see this in person, you can kind of see there's a geometric that's just from the texture.
Yeah, I can see that there with the way the light hits it. You can see the way the different tiles.
Oh yeah, totally.
So yeah, so this is my Tolkien ode to Tolkien, The Doors of Durin, and what I want to do now, this is my big challenge, is this is just a mosaic. I want to take this, keep the design, take it off, and then put a LED backing so that at night, well, when we do our light up brick stuff, this will all actually glow.
Oh yeah,
Because
that'd
it's
be
supposed to
awesome.
be moon letters, it's supposed to be
Yeah.
seen in the moon. So yeah,
The
but
next
anyway,
step
so
in the
that's
evolution.
one of my favorite things. Yes, you're right. I was very very surprised and happy to have had that featured on online by a couple
It is a
different.
great honor. Yes.
Yeah.
The Brothers.
You mentioned your display there. I think it is a really awesome display for people who haven't been able to make it to one of the conventions where you have that. I went to Brick Fair, Virginia for the first time last year, and was just kind of walking through, and there's a lot of your typical vendors there selling sets and whatever pieces. And then I kind of came up on your display and just had to stop and look at it for a while. It was different than everybody else. You've got kind of the, like you said, the history of some of the bricks there, and then also some of these really cool MOCs you've built as well from the Modulex. So it's a really awesome display, and I think it really does a good service to the community when you take that around to conventions.
Well, thanks. I'm hoping to, because I have to, because it's so much and so big, I have to drive it wherever I go. So I've mostly been on the East Coast. I'm hoping to get into the Midwest maybe and go to Chicago and Brick World and some other places. But this year, as you said earlier, this summer I'm going to be in Alaska the whole summer, so I will miss out on the summer circuit, and I'm very sad to miss, especially Brick Fair, Virginia. That's probably right now my favorite event to be a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Todd's very busy right now this weekend. They're in Alabama, and I'm not able to be there, but it's a great group of people, and I will definitely miss being there. But I'm hoping that I can get out to other events, because I do think it would be fun for more people to see more of the massive stuff that I have, and there's just a ton of it.
Certainly. It is definitely, it's completely, like, kind of blow you out of the water, like, what? The first time, at least when I saw it, and I know a lot of people have similar reactions, so yeah, definitely something a lot of people should see or get to know. If you're a LEGO fan, you should know about Modulex, wouldn't you say?
I think so, definitely, yeah. So I think that is really cool what you do, helping spread the history and everything like that. So do you have any concrete plans for the future with either the Modulex or more traditional Lego side of things? Any MOCs coming up or anything like that?
Well, sure, but am I going to tell you? No.
Anything you can tease us with or anything?
Well, I really do like a lot of the Tolkien things, and a lot of people have done some really great stuff with regular brick. I have enough brick that I can do some really big things, but I think that kind of is counterproductive to Modulex, because really if you have enough brick of anything, you can make it big. What's really cool with the Modulex stuff is to do some really creative small stuff. And I have some brick, some of the Modulex that goes on track, and I've really tried to think about some creative ways that I could make use of that track and maybe do some really cool MOCs with that, and some more stuff that I can't tell you about. Sorry.
Well, at least it sounds like there's some cool stuff to look forward to, at least. Well, there'll be stuff coming down the pipeline. So, where is the best place for people to keep up to date with you? Is it your website or Flickr, or where do you usually post MOCs and latest updates on what you're doing?
Well, I try to put as much information as I can for the Modulex history and anything that has to do with Modulex on the minibricksmadness.com site. And that's a good way for people to get in touch with me also. And if they want to buy any, or if they have questions, or if I'm going to be scanning the manuals and posting those online. I don't really want to print them off and charge people for them. I'm really more about trying to get the history out there to people, so that's something that I will be working on. I've been asked to put some YouTube videos up on the website showing some of the, the bricks and some techniques and stuff. I may try to do that. I do have a Flickr account. I haven't put a lot of the MOCs up there recently, but now you're making me feel guilty, and I should. So.
You have to do it, Karyn. Do it for the community.
Okay. But anybody should go onto Flickr and do a search for Modulex, because you'll find incredible builders. There's just some really incredible builders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a very good idea, kind of expand. If you aren't familiar with it, you'll see a lot of interesting new builds that you probably wouldn't have thought possible before you see them posted on Flickr from some really great builders.
Yes.
So yeah, that's really awesome. I really appreciate you joining us tonight, Karyn, and kind of giving us the history of Modulex, showing us some of your cool builds, and kind of exposing this to more people in the community and helping people hear more about this. It's been really nice having you on.
Well, it's been great to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Karyn.
And I'll make sure to put a link to your website and then any of the other websites we mentioned here in the show in the description of this video, so people can find those links easily in the description and check that out. I definitely encourage you to check out minibricksmadness.com, Karyn's website. There's a lot of really cool stuff over there. And like she said, if you're interested in buying it, you can contact her through that and maybe get a hold of some Modulex yourself if you want to kind of go out into that field and see what it's like to have some. And I did want to remind you real quick to check out the Brick Builders Club at brickbuildersclub.com. You can start receiving your monthly box of really cool Lego content like stickers and custom bricks and all sorts of cool stuff. So that's brickbuildersclub.com. Encourage you to check that out today. And yeah, Karyn, it's been great having you on the show. Really nice talking with you. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.